Wouldn't it be better to go to a physicist sometimes? Like sometimes you go to a psychologist, but sometimes you go to a physicist and they're just telling you about like the weight in your arms and like the pressure the chair is also putting on your ass and your ass is putting pressure on the chair at the same time you leave, just kind of being like, I had nothing to do with my childhood, but I do feel better thinking about my ass in the chair and the chair in my ass.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Mind Under Matter. Today, we are doing another survey episode, which I always love. This one is about conspiracies. We're going to figure out who is more conspiracy-minded between Ramin and I. And by the way, okay, before I say anything else, before we blow anything, before we bias you in any way, you may want to stop. You may want to take this conspiracy belief scale yourself. If you're at work right now and you're like, but I want to listen and not ruin it, it won't matter ultimately. But maybe you want to stop quick and take it. It's called the Generic Conspiracist Beliefs Scale. And
Where'd you get it from?
On openpsychometrics.org/GCBS.
.org sounds reputable. Like anyone can get a .com, but can anyone get a .org? If not, it sounds like it, the same way that I couldn't get a .edu unless I was truly a school.
Really?
I don't think you can just get one. I could be wrong.
We can't have a mum edu. All of the education that we provide for people, what we lack in accuracy, we certainly make up for in
inaccuracy.
In inspiration.
Oh, inspiration. Yeah, that too.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, any good teacher should be inspiring their students to go and want to naturally look up things on their own and go down their own wormholes. They shouldn't be trying to drive home some specific detail that they're going to be tested on later. And that's none of the stuff that we do. We just get in, and we have in the YouTube comments, we often have people expand on some of our ideas, correct some of our ideas, fill in gaps where I'm like, oh, I can't remember what's the name of that part of the brain. There's always someone in there ready to write a whole spiel. Looking for more of that, by the way, because it's fun. I read everyone. I learn a lot from you guys as well. But it's
it makes you want to make more mistakes because the mistakes call out the corrections of it. Like, did you know that most bananas are blue? And then we're going to get like 10 paragraphs on like, normally bananas are green but transition to yellow. Blue bananas do not exist, quite frankly. And I'm just back here going, that's my conspiracy. When do I pretend to be dumb so that I get a response?
What kind of conspiracies would you like for people to spread? Like about either of us individually, but really bonus points for just about the mum universe generally. Like one that we aren't actually in the same room, in the same studio. I would like that, like some ridiculous conspiracy that we do this
that we
remotely
tape in different places,
different locations, and somehow we're able to like just talk through the internet and stuff with a program and stitch it together with editing that somehow exists in some superior universe where they can connect things together.
Yeah. I mean, what's another one to spread that we...
I think I had some conspiracies going about me for a while. I would have people come
that you're in Big Pharma?
No, before I became a shill for Big Pharma. That's the new one. I had more when I was doing the psychedelic tour. There was more fun conspiracies about like missions that I was working on because I talk with scientists and stuff as well. And that I've also, so there's like there were rumors that there were like studies that I was involved with and forwarding and all of these things. What a fun thing to think about. Yeah. It was a fun,
Yeah.
every conspiracy that I ever heard about me was a fun one, for sure. They were ridiculous and not true, but they were fun. I would have liked for them to be true.
What about the conspiracy that I died in episode 3, and this has been like a
That's
similar
a good
looking guy
one.
they got from Iraq or something? They correct the face a little with deep fake.
First up, I'm not sure that I would know. I'm not sure that I would. I'm not sure I would be able to tell the difference if the way that they deep fake things and everything right now, and if you have an identical twin and there's some sort of like it could be, or identical triplets and there's a different one of you each time. That's a good one.
Have you seen thispersondoesnotexist.com?
Is that real?
Yeah, well, it's real, but the faces that it shows you are not real faces. It makes perfect deep fakes of people that don't exist in real life.
Are they hot or all kinds of
Sometimes
things?
they're Uggs, they're hot, they're medium, normally a standard bell curve of
nice.
But
nice. So well, maybe we'll come up with some conspiracies about us as we go on. And this one, I thought we'd do just like a little bit. So first of all, there's a zillion. So if you want a good resource, if you want to really dig into the conspiracy literature, a good thing to look into is, so I reached out to a past Here We Are guest, a political scientist, and was asking some questions about different takes on the psychology of the conspiracy mindset and such. And I was directed toward a really fantastic review. So it's not, your average paper, you got an abstract and like methodology and a bunch of data to sift through. Instead it's taking all of the work that's been done and putting it into a nice readable review that's like 30 pages or something.
One power bar, like 500 apples compressed into one bar of protein and energy.
Exactly. It is pretty readable. It's pretty, to get in the mood, I decided to like print it out on paper and get a highlighter and look, I like made notes like a crazy person on all the sides of it. And I'm in my parents' basement right now. I'm really feeling like I'm in the I haven't been laid in a very long time. I feel like I'm really COVID.
It's 2 years?
All of COVID. Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. I've had some dates and stuff like that, but yeah. But
we know how they ended, though. Not inside. It's Patreon episode. It's okay. It's okay to joke about it. Damn it. I had something and now it's gone. So we'll move forward.
So I went through some of the review. The other thing is there's so many aspects of it, from like how conspiracies are communicated, the type of personality, the different, like 5 different types of conspiracy thinking that there are. And there's so many different aspects that all of the studies are listed, so you can go down your own wormholes, do your own research, connect all of your dots. And so if you, the listener, if you're interested in that, it's called Understanding Conspiracies. It's just political, let's see, the political psychology. What's the name of this paper? The paper is just called Understanding Conspiracy Theories. It's from the ISPP, which is the International Society of Political Psychology. And so they went through a bunch of the different conspiracy tests that are out there. And I thought this one would be the best because it's 15 and it's not about specific conspiracies. It's about just general conspiracy.
We should
mindset.
Do a specific one time. Not right now, but
yeah, in the future we'll do a specific one. There's issues with that, which maybe we'll get into as we go on. Why don't we start with a question first, and then I'll start explaining more of just because the more I explain, the more we're going to be primed over time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, don't prime this ass.
So let's at least get one thing in before I start blabbing and Shane-splaining and and priming everybody.
Man-splaining. It doesn't work.
Shane-splaining works.
Yeah.
It's like a long, meandering kind of grasping for specific words that he can't find, and foggy overall concepts that seem more meaningful than they are. So here's the first one, just to give you an example, and then we'll start digging into this a bit more. I already took the test, so I know where I fell.
I knew it.
On it. Which, by the way, who do you think is more conspiracy thinking?
Me, by like sixfold.
By 6, so it's a scale of 1 to 5.
So not sixfold. I bet I'm just a click more.
You think you're a full 1 more than me?
Yeah, but
Right.
but not in the sense that I'll ever do anything about it.
Okay, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I could be wrong. I could be less even. Who knows? But I'm just guessing.
We're gonna find out. So here's the first question. The government is involved in the murder of innocent citizens and or well-known public figures and keeps this a secret.
Involved? Yeah, involved. Sure.
But so you strongly agree?
Oh, it's let's see, the 5 scale. Just regular. Just regular agree.
Regular agree? Yeah.
Yeah. See, involved implies there's going to be some evidence of it, like even if it's a handful of people.
So first of all of these I have an issue with. So one of the things with these scales is you're supposed to just kind of go with your gut like Ramin just did. That's the advantage of taking this before you listen to us go on and on about it. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. All this stuff is just for fun. And what it tells you, one person about an individual is pretty meaningless. These scales don't mean anything until they're sent out to thousands and thousands of people and you start seeing some trends. But to me, I think, well, what government? I think some governments are more prone to doing it than others are by a long shot.
North Korea, Iran.
Yeah, I think like more governments are capable of doing it, or it's just easier. And especially in a place like North Korea or something where they're just a black box of who knows what the heck is going on in there. They've gone through a great deal to make sure like information doesn't get in or out of North Korea. So you would think, sure, why wouldn't it? If we're talking North Korea, my guess would be strongly agree, probably.
Yeah. It probably means the government you live in, though, right? It's probably meaning the government, meaning the one that you consider your government.
So we should probably use that as our as our reference point, right? Like the United States government.
An innocent civilian, maybe not innocent from their perspective. Maybe they're a problem. Maybe so it's not like completely random. Like, let's just take out this guy. Let's get Fred. They probably, Fred maybe has some information. Fred is doing something to blackmail someone else higher up. The higher up person is taking care of that, so he doesn't leak the stuff that he had the affair with his wife or went to Jeffrey Epstein's island or whatever it is. I'm sure that happens.
Yeah. I mean, to me, because a conspiracy involves 2 or more people in like a powerful position. I think by
it has
definition.
To be 2? Oh, okay.
I believe so. So it's a little, yeah, because you can't just like what's that Kevin Spacey political show where he was trying to be president or became president or
the Manchurian Candidate, or is that Denzel Washington?
No, it's the
I've never seen it.
it's a good show that I'm not remembering the name of, and then he got canceled. But he takes in the show, he takes matters into his own hands like a couple times, or someone's causing him trouble. So that wouldn't be a conspiracy. That's just a politician murdering someone that can do them wrong. So that's a different level than like getting a team together and keeping a lid on all of it. You know what I'm saying?
That's the otherwise it's just spiring, but it's conspiracy. Yeah. It's conspiring.
There's also a good definition that I saw of a conspiracist belief can be described as the unnecessary assumption of conspiracy when other explanations are more probable. So there's definitely conspiracies that happen. Love finding out about them. I just finished watching Dope Sick. Fantastic series about Oxy. I like, there's a good documentary about Ralph Nader. That's really good. That dude had weird conspiracy stuff happen to him that came to light.
He was the Green Party, right? We've already forgotten about him.
Yeah. So Ralph Nader, he had, as the story goes, he had a friend. He was a lawyer. He had a friend die in an automobile accident. He looked into this specific kind of automobile, saw that they had higher rates of accidents than other vehicles, tried to bring it to GM. So GM made this car specifically for the tail to spin out because it looked cool in commercials. And this is before seatbelts and everything. And so then he tried to get that car recalled, and then he tried getting seatbelts added, and then he found out some car companies had started adding seatbelts as an option, and large car companies had basically threatened and discouraged them from doing that, because they're like, if we start adding them as an option, then the government's going to mandate it, and then they're going to start adding more safety things, and it's going to be costly and blah, blah, blah. And so then they started, so then he becomes this activist about this, and they start blaming. They did the same thing with Oxy. If you watch Dope Sick, I don't know how realistic it is, and this is common in climate denial with BP and stuff too, which is you blame the individual, you blame the consumer. It's the bad user. It's the alcoholic that has the problem, not the alcoholic. Yeah.
Bad actors.
And so with cars, it was bad drivers. This is bad. Be a better driver. This is your fault. You need to have personal accountability. And it takes the accountability off of the company putting out unnecessarily dangerous things. And so they eventually started having, they would hire like prostitutes to try to hook up with them, to blackmail them, and doing like weird shit with like Nader? That. Yeah. And so he'd be at a grocery store and he'd be like, why are there babes just coming up to me suddenly? This has not happened before. And he eventually they started figuring out, and then they started like harassing his family and stuff. And they eventually gained enough evidence that GM admitted to doing all of this shit. And he won this massive lawsuit of like $50 million or something crazy. And that's what started his whole career.
Political campaign? Damn. Yeah. I had no idea. I thought he was just some guy.
Yeah. And then he became a big consumer advocate and stuff. And
isn't that weird that we don't think about what someone's story is? Like we don't assume they have no story, that they just materialized into existence now. But it's funny how you don't think like, where did that guy come from?
Yeah.
Or at least I don't. Maybe that's because I'm a moron.
No, I think I've always been big into consumer advocacy, and I always liked like Consumer Reporter and stuff for buying things, and I enjoy things like that. So
what is that?
I like that.
Yelp before there was Yelp.
Yeah, it's like consumers' product testing, like professional reviewers product testing things, and like also from consumers and stuff as well, getting to it was the most accurate, probably still is the most accurate ratings of like how dependable a car is, of like if you want to get a car from 2000, like a 2013 Hyundai or something, you can find out how reliable it is, and there's probably no more reliable place than Consumer Reporter.
Did they adapt to the internet?
Yeah, I think so.
Good.
So
Good
I
for
like
them.
stuff like that. It's a good documentary, Maxed Out, that called the housing crisis years before it happened, and that was like similar stuff where you could kind of call it conspiratorial in a way with what's that, the guy that made Don't Look Up,
Adam McKay.
yeah, what was his thing about the financial institution that he did?
The Wall Street Freakonomics bets.
Wolf of Wall Street, no, but close. Adam McKay did, but I think what people might be surprised if they follow me on Twitter that I'm not. It's not that I don't believe conspiracies exist or corruption exists. I just also believe that people are prone to like nonsensical conspiracy thinking.
Yeah, some are true, some are not. Now we get into a big discussion of how which ones are true and why, and now there's people that it really did a number on. I don't know if there's other places that people go for conspiracies other than Reddit and just random forums, but the vaccine stuff it's taken over everything. There's no more talk about aliens. There's no more talk about Pizzagate, anything. It's all vax stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, it really is. I actually, do you want to, this might be a little early, do you want me to spoil the 5 different topics of conspiracy
spoil
thinking?
them.
All right, because they're pretty fun. So they started this by doing like a 67 question, or no, it looks like it's like 72 questionnaire, and then from that they were able to gauge different traits. So one of the things with conspiracy beliefs, a conspiracy mindset, is if you have a conspiracy mindset, you're just prone to believing whatever conspiracy someone throws at you, even when they conflict with one another. So someone that just has a conspiracy mindset is, you can ask them like specific conspiracies in a survey, and they are likely to put that they find it very likely that Princess Diana was assassinated, and very likely that Princess Diana faked her own death. Like, both of those things. and then they build on each other.
Oh, funny.
Yeah. So it's just kind of, and people that are prone to higher order thinking, kind of top down sort of thinking, people that are prone to paranormal type stuff also just tend to, because some of it's just like fringy and cool, and fun to think about, and then other aspects of it is sadder, which we'll get into as well. But the 5 are government malfeasance. So that's reflected allegations of routine criminal conspiracy within government. And the second is extraterrestrial cover-up. Ooh.
See, that's what it's about.
Yeah. So you're mad. Everyone's talking about vaccines. No one's talking about the alien cover-ups as well. I think Duncan is sharing some of those frustrations too.
Really? Oh, I haven't checked in with him in a minute.
He loves talking about aliens. Every time I'm on a show, he knows I don't want to talk about aliens that much, but he'll often ask me about aliens. And I don't know, they're fun to think about. A third factor termed malevolent global conspiracies.
So not just your government, but the New World Order, all the governments.
Exactly. Concerning allegations that small secret groups exert total control over global events. So, there's probably a lot of crossover between 1 and 3 there. A fourth factor, termed personal well-being, is relating to conspiracist concerns over personal health and liberty, such as the spread of disease and the use of mind control technology.
Oh, I must not be a 4 then. Even though MK Ultra was real.
Mm-hmm. There's certainly things that have happened. Oh, and by the way, another thing that I did to try to eliminate bias was I found something that was pre-COVID. So all of this conspiracy review, this came out exactly like 1 year before COVID in 2019.
Ooh, big coincidence. They prepared 5 years in advance. But yeah, that's the funny thing is that
they caused the conspiracies.
Yeah.
They were studying it the whole time and talking about it. They must be the ones that caused it.
Yeah, and you can forever just say like, yeah, but where did you get that? But where did you read that? But where did you read that from? But where did you read that? No. See, that's all controlled opposition. The real stuff is the stuff I happen to stumble upon.
Yeah, and so any new listeners, we build on a lot of ideas on this show, so hopefully each episode is good standing alone, but you'll get a lot out of going back to the beginning and hearing us build on ideas. But within that, there's, oh shit, what were we just talking about?
We were talking about the 5.
I was going to say something. It doesn't matter. It'll come to me. So I like to reference things about the study of disease or conspiracies and things. I like to find things before COVID because one, it's hard to not project a modern lens onto the past if you're to go back through the conspiracy literature now. Like when I go through with a highlighter, I'm like, yes, this is exactly what's happening. But also science should be able to make good predictions, so it's a way of testing how things turned out. A lot of good predictions. One horrific failure in the literature. There's a fair amount of literature that claimed that they weren't terribly worried about social media being like early on. I'm talking like 10 years ago. They were like, nah, I don't think social media will be that much of a factor with conspiracy spreading.
It's because it was everything and it was blocking the chart because they thought it was not there, but it turns out it was the only thing there.
Yeah, people just have more options for more information, so it should just sort itself out.
Yeah, and you can present yourself equally. Before, like, I couldn't have a TV station or a magazine, but I can have a website that looks just as good, if not better, than CNN. And my social media presence, it's equal to, or not just me, like anyone. Like, if you're on social media, you're an equal account, just like the rest of them.
Yeah.
So when you're seeing CNN or Gus, it's the same way.
This is one. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was done with that. Also, CNN is stupid too, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, cable news. Clickbait stuff. But the anti-vax websites are like really well done. And one of the things that they do are, first off, no one goes to pro-vaccine websites because, like, why? Why would you? I mean, like for example, I would like to know how to optimize my vaccine, right? So, like, say I were to get COVID, I might want to know, like, well, how long should I wait afterwards to, like, get a booster or something? And if I am going to boost, how long should I wait and what should I mix it with and blah, blah, blah. Maybe you'd go to a pro-vax site for that, but why? But one of the differences is the the anti-vax websites, they also present the pro-vaccine narrative on their website. Like the vaccine sites don't say, yeah, and there's some people that think there's microchips and stuff, so that's like the other side. That's the other side of it. But what's genius is the anti-vax sites, they present kind of like, this is what Geico did really well, is they give the competitors' prices on their website. It was like no one had thought to do that before. And so people just trusted them more because they did that. And so they do that, but then they also get the advantage of presenting what the other side's case actually is. They aren't like getting information necessarily from the pro-vaccine websites. They're saying what they're saying on those sites. It's like I went to a creationist museum and they would present the ideas of evolution at the creationist museum, not knowing that there's someone that like studies evolution pretty intensely.
So they leave a lot of gaps.
Audience. Oh, there was some gaps. All right. Yeah. There were a few gaps in there. They did try. They gave it an honest effort, but foofda. But yeah. So, and then the fifth factor is control of information, and this is relating to unethical control and suppression of information by organizations, including government, the media, scientists, and corporations.
So the big ones right now are 4 and 5 and a little 1 and 2. Basically, no, 1 and 3. Right now, the world is obsessed with everything but number 2. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, the extraterrestrial stuff. That's the only. But that popped up at the beginning of COVID.
But people didn't care. Like they said that, okay, fine, UFOs are real. Also, there's murder hornets. Also, also, but like we didn't stick to it. No one cared.
That's true.
Like me did Michael Garfield a little bit, Michael Phillip, and then Duncan or someone. But no one. It didn't take the culture.
I'm going to say, in terms of the government is involved in the murder of innocent citizens and well-known public figures and keeps this a secret, I'm going to say regular disagree. So I'm going to give it a 2 if we're talking the U.S. And it's not because I'm overly fond of the United States or have some big trust in it. It's just that I think it's hard to do, and there's probably lots of like we have like NDAs and like lots of different ways of corrupting and blackmailing people. So if it's murdering someone, plus they just murder, they're like at fault. They manslaughter people by the hundreds of thousands in my opinion. So I'm no big fan of the government, but just by gross negligence, they're doing far worse things than like picking off a person.
Or is it negligence?
Time.
Or is it intentional planification of the things? No, the thing is like that's probably true, and you never know, because when you're answering these questions, you're just playing with your imagination a little bit. I'm like, yeah, they are throwing people in vans and disappearing forever, and some are being sold into sex trafficking. But then I have to go find evidence of it. I'm like, oh, I guess it is more kind of boring and normal than I was imagining, huh?
Yeah. So this would be like, asking about if you believe that JFK or Princess Diana was actually assassinated.
Yeah, she was.
That would fall into these. Okay, so you're a regular agree. I'm a regular disagree. All right.
You don't think she was assassinated? Good. That one sounds true to me.
Haven't looked into it, don't care that much. That's the other reason why these general attitudes are kind of useful, is because when they did the specific surveys, they found that like, well, if you don't live in the US, you're less prone to give a fuck if JFK was assassinated or not. or if you like, there's the 7/7 bombing in London in 2005, which I know nothing about, but people in the UK would, and there's conspiracies surrounding it. I'd be like, yeah, probably not. If someone was convinced, I'd be like, well, one, I don't care, and two, probably not. But when you're there, because one of the factors of conspiracies is like unpredictability and lack of control. So those things that more deeply upset your feeling of control and predictability, which are things that happen in the country that you live in, are going to raise the probability that you're going to believe in a given.
So you don't have control, so you take comfort in, well, I'm not in control, but I know who is, and we can take them down.
Yeah.
Instead of like, oh, no one's really in control. We're on this crazy blue ball of iron and water and ice, and it's spinning around, and like, who knows? It's crazy. No one's really got a hold of this tiger.
Exactly. That's the difference between me and a conspiracy theorist. Probably is that it's not that I feel more in control or like I can predict things better. I probably have less of a feeling of that than them. But can we also
divide?
Don't blame other things. I also blame myself for everything. Constantly. I don't have the self-esteem to think that someone's plotting against me, and the only thing holding me back is like this or that person, or why do people like that? A global pandemic happened, and I was like, God damn it, this is my fault for like not having enough in the savings, or the stupid career path I picked. I'm very hard on myself. What were you going to say?
You could have patted yourself on the back because you're spreading, you're introducing people to scientists and stuff, and it's like, well, maybe I helped a little bit there. I introduced some more people to think this way. But I was gonna say, if we can divide what it means that basically take these to their final end at what they're getting at, and why I can never live in a world of conspiracy, at least not in my actions, because it's like the government is in control of everything. Well, who's the government? Well, it's these reptilian aliens that, hijacked the planet. It's like, what are they? It's like, okay, there's two types of aliens, those in service to self and those in service to the whole, the one. What is the one? Oh, the one is the one consciousness of all everythingness. It's you, and you are all the things in it. And the reptilian aliens in service to self control you through fear. So in being fearful, you are feeding them, which you're just feeding the aspect of you that is fear. The object of fear is to claim more of itself. So there can't be reptile aliens at the base of it. If you're talking about reptile aliens that are in service to self as opposed to service to the one, you're just still talking about an aspect of your mind. Does that make sense, or did I just unravel there?
No, yeah. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, well, you don't have to be afraid of COVID then. It's like, no, it's not about not being afraid of COVID. It's just not buying into the constant fear conspiracy narrative. To think conspiratorially, you've already lost because you're then just in the fear mindset again.
Yeah, you're scared of something else.
Yeah, so you've already lost once you start trying to, well, we're going to win the battle against the big fear.
Yeah, right. Well, that's the thing. It also... one of the things that potentially gives a person a feeling of control and predictability and agency is a feeling that they have a better account of what's going on than the official narrative.
Yeah.
So
they've seen a bit more. They know how it really works. They don't have the whole picture, but they've got more than you. And if you joined... then we can help bring this down. Come on, everybody. It always boils down to, come on, everybody. And then, I can't come to your meeting.
No, because I don't want a conspiracy, because there's a lot of research that shows that one of the biggest predictors is if you can imagine, if it's what you would do in a situation, you imagine other people are doing it. So people that are more Machiavellian, more willing to like dupe people, run scams, that sort of thing, like look for an angle, tend to believe that people in positions of authority and expertise are doing the same thing that they would be doing if they were given that power. So no thanks. Already had one conspiracy peddler as a president. So the power held, the second question, I'm already having so much fun with this.
Did you ever see the clip of, speaking of the conspiracy peddling president, I know you're referring to Trump, but did you ever see the clip of Clinton where someone asked him about Bohemian Grove and like the ritual sacrifices and stuff, and then he just immediately snaps back like, Bohemian Grove, is that the place where all those Republicans go get naked and dance in the woods? And just everyone just erupts in laughter, and the guy just shrinks, and it's like he just lost.
Yeah,
but like he shows, I know what it is, and it's the thing the Republicans are up to. And
first of all, if our politicians need to go and get naked and run in the woods for like a little fucking bonding once in a while with themselves and consenting adults, like, okay, I don't think it needs to necessarily be attached to like whatever like demonic thing. I had a friend years ago that showed me that Bohemian Grove like tape that Alex Jones like discovered or whatever, or put out, and it just looks like a very lame old person burning man to me.
Yeah, because people work there. You can
really
talk
stupid.
to, unless they're all in on it. There's people that, you know, worked at Bohemian Grove as a waiter getting paid like $7 an hour, and they probably don't get tipped that well either. And they'll say like, yeah, George Bush Sr. like was really upset that he wasn't getting his milkshake when everyone else was getting it, and he had to wait extra, and like all these little stories of minutia from.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not fond of politicians because the type of person that is a politician is just not very much like me in general. But it seems like there's a lot of people that like gravitate toward sororities in college and just kind of want to keep that going through the rest of their, you know, they're like class president, and then they're this and that. They just like that, being in some fucking club where they feel like they have power or whatever, and then they just kind of keep that going. And then I also believe that there's politicians that are like Ralph Nader. I was a big fan of. I think I thought he got like a little narcissistic when he tried running for president.
Yeah, too bad he doesn't have charisma. He just didn't have charisma, and that's everything. As we've seen, you need nothing else. It's charisma plus who cares? We didn't even look at your application of the other stuff you wrote.
Yeah, Barack Obama is just like jaw-dropping charisma. Like,
I would love to know if he has skeletons, because he's perfect. And I know you could talk to Michelle really and she'd be like, whoa, you think he's perfect? Let me tell you, he's not perfect at all. Let me tell you what this man does, blah, blah, blah. But even that's wholesome, not perfect. Like, I want to know the dark. What is there anything skeleton there?
I would like to
maybe
know
not.
too. You'd think, I don't know. Who knows? I mean, the thing is lots of people in this world are very much intrinsically motivated to do good, and some people gravitate toward nursing or social work or community building, and they have nothing but the best intentions. And there are people that are like super smart and well-intentioned that also get in positions to be in politics. It's just usually they lose, you know, they're fucking boring people. Typically those ones are snoozers. All right. So the second question is, the power held by heads of state is second to that of small unknown groups who really control world politics.
Agree.
You want to expand on that? That's a
I
regular
believe
agree
that
I'm putting you down
the
for?
president of the United States gets paid like $400,000 a year. And there's people that make much, much more than that who have influence in the way that they move money around and
imagine how many presidents. If you're Elon Musk, you could pay the salary of every president on Earth like 100 times over.
Yeah. But it's like in that episode of Succession where they're meeting to decide who the next president is, like that kind of stuff. Like it's the owner of this big media company, this oil company, this that they probably have say in who gets to be next. It's not just the guy that went door to door most.
I agree with everything that you're saying. I do think pep talks and popularity contests do play a factor. And just general narcissism plays a factor in confidence and stuff. But here's something. Let me read this again. The power held by heads of state is second to that of small unknown groups who really control world politics.
So like I don't get to know them at all.
So it's a little bit like everyone knows like oil companies and these different, depending on your political bias. So I'm more liberal, so I'm going to say like oil companies and corporations. If you're on the right, you're going to say like academia and these sorts of organizations are in on this conglomerate, and they're probably both right in some regards. But small unknown feels just like Illuminati-ish and silly to me, you know? So I have a harder time. Like I would be a regular agree with everything that you said.
Because if they're unknown, where do they get their money from, and how are they? Are they like just old, passed down money wealth and have never been seen once, and no one's outed them? That does seem unlikely.
All of these we're probably not supposed to think through this much, but this is what we do. We overthink everything, and it's entertaining.
Maybe I'll just go neutral there then.
You're putting a noochie boochies? I'll put a nooch down. I'll put a nooch Gingrich.
All I ask is that you remain neutral.
What's that quote from?
Oh, that's in the that Boba Fett show when he's like sitting at the table with all those little alien guys and the Trandoshans and the guys with the asses as the chin and all that, and he's just like, all I ask is that you remain neutral. I can't do it, but like his New Zealand accent and the gruffness of his voice just stuck in my head. Remain neutral.
I may not be caught up on that lovely show. Secret organizations.
It had good moments.
I just finished Peacemaker, by the way.
You got to start that.
Top notch. Super silly. Secret organizations communicate with extraterrestrials, but keep this fact from the public.
I want it to be true, but I don't know. I don't think they got anything. I don't think they communicate with them. But no, I think it's more of the if they're around, they're not just one directional relationship with the government. I think they're talking to everybody in their heads, and they're multidimensional, and they speak in weird like it gets down to like probability, causality things. They don't even exist in this reality. Like they exist in multiple timelines that you can tune into, and it gets fuzzy like that. But not a little green man with a thing talking to Karl Rove or whatever. No, I guess.
I'm more of like if I wanna allow myself to think of some way in which aliens are influencing us, it's some sort of like butterfly effect type thing, or like time travel type situation, or like really subtle subconscious that they can just see the algorithm of how like a subtle priming will play out, just like scientists can prime a person to behave in a certain way for reasons that are unbeknownst to them, but scientists can reliably make you like feel bad about yourself or give you a sense of false confidence or whatever by priming you to, or make you pick a certain color or something like that.
Yeah. I want it to be true, but I don't think it's true. Because the reason I want it to be true is that maybe that would mean, maybe in 10 years they're ready to start telling us stuff. Because then that means the information is there. Just someone has to leak it or they have to come out with it. But the other chance of it not being true, that's kind of, it makes you feel sad. Like, there's no future bizarre technology that they're holding back.
It would be wonderful if there was, and at the same time, if our politicians if there were politicians or like Elon Musk or Gates or some sort of elite or whatever, and getting directly contacting aliens, getting information from them, and this is still how they're behaving. Like, wow. It's not, I listen to most politicians and I'm like, if you're getting that from a higher intelligence, I'm having a hard time seeing it, because to me, I think most politicians' success and most media success is that the crowd is selecting people that are just a hair above their level, which is, this is arrogant to say, but still somewhat dumb by my standards, which is to say, not that every human is to say that groupthink, the actual act of a group getting together and thinking as a unit, is not the smartest thing in the world.
Yeah, who's going to run faster, you by yourself or like a 3-legged race thing, but with like 60 people tied together? Probably the one person.
Yeah.
But they've got more legs. Yeah. Watch it play out. I love that the 3-legged race is just when you want it to be, it's a metaphor for do not cooperate with anyone. It's all about going solo. But there's also that quote of, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for like think tanks and writers' rooms and things like that. But I think it just in terms
focused with like boundaries and somewhat roles and things like that. Not just put people in a room and let them duke it out. Who's the witch?
Yeah, but if you're charged with getting a room full of people to clap, typically you don't want to be too high above them, unless you sound, then you're like, that's the other direction, is like guru territory, when you're saying things that like sound so beyond genius that no one knows what the fuck you're talking about, and they're like, wow, those are amazing words, I guess I'll listen to this person. But I think a lot of politicians operate at a level that are just same with like popular bands, it's like
yeah, they're trying to hit that sweet spot of getting whatever 60% of the people, whereas being yourself, you could only get to like 5%.
Yeah, exactly. That's all I'm saying. I'm going to put myself down with a strongly agree on the secret organization, or strongly disagree, rather.
Strongly disagree on the aliens. What did I say? Disagree regular?
You haven't said anything yet.
I think disagree regular.
Okay. The spread of certain viruses and or diseases. By the way, this study came out years before COVID. The spread of certain viruses and or diseases is the result of the deliberate, concealed efforts of some organizations.
Some organizations. All I know about it is that it sounded to me like the lab leak thing was possible, and then the longer time that goes on, I think lab leak stuff, yes, but larger narrative that this is all about getting us to be in servitude and like that kind of thing, and that they're doing the rise of the Third Reich or something.
New
Not
World
that far,
Order.
but I think there's cover-ups, like negligence cover-ups, not the type of large like arc of control thing. But
it's very
maybe
reasonable.
maybe that puts me at a agree, but
A regular old agree.
yeah, but I'm not going to go on a whatever the convoy thing is.
Well, I would add to that I mean, biowarfare is a legitimate thing that also does, exist and has been used in war. That's why there's gas masks and everything else, and we have, international treaties and such, because that sort of thing can happen. What was anthrax or whatever that people were mailing out was all the rage like 10 years ago or whatever.
20 years
20 years ago.
Actually longer, because it was 2001.
Doesn't
it was during
anthrax
9/11.
make you feel old? Oh,
Yeah.
Remember anthrax, everybody? Doesn't that take you back? Simpler times. All you had to do was take your mail and throw it in the fucking garbage and not open it, and you were fine.
And not sniff the corners, the creases of it. Not sniff the creases of the corners with a straw. Actually, you can die from anthrax through physical contact with your fingertips. The reason anthrax works is because I know.
You do know, huh?
I know that anything I say, there's also the but actually. That's what I'm saying. That I know.
There's but actually, guys.
Yeah, I know all the words I come up with are suspect.
Yeah. I mean, I would comfortably bet money that there wasn't a lab leak with COVID, and if there was, it didn't have anything to do with gain of function. It was a virus that existed that was being studied, but even that, evolution does a fantastic job of stewing up viruses that I wish we were as advanced enough to be able to, and we will be one day with computer modeling and stuff, but the intricacies of forming a new virus, that's just millions of generations just making mistakes after mistakes, and then one serendipitous day a virus takes off and doesn't know that it found a new host that it does really well in. That shit's just going to keep on happening again and again and again. Way bigger concern than lab leaks, in my opinion. Not that we shouldn't improve biosecurity and such, but
and how is China doing? Because isn't the conspiracy that China leaked it to destabilize the world, and then they do okay? But I haven't even researched that.
They had so the reason why they have some of the bigger disease research places is because of places like Wuhan and areas like that have really, really dense populations, and on top of that, they have huge, like, speaking of things that came out before COVID, there's some pandemic docu-series on Netflix. I think it's just called Pandemic and has some subtitle to it. And they're going around talking about, it came out in January 2020, and they're talking about the dangers of wet markets and bat viruses and things like that, and trying to raise the alarm. As a docuseries no one would have ever watched or cared about, until
why would they?
Until it happens. Why would they? Most people still haven't seen it, and fucking COVID happened. But yeah, there's been tons of stuff happening because they have I learned some of the stuff just from looking into pandemic histories, not exploring the lab leak stuff necessarily, but they have a lot of, how backyard rural chickens and stuff like that are taking off around the US more. Mm-hmm. Well, they have tons of that.
What you mean, more people are buying them? Not that they're leaving. Okay.
Yeah. More, it's becoming more of a fad.
Yeah, I've been playing too much Zelda because when you hit the chicken in Zelda like 5 or 6 times, all the other chickens just start flying and attacking you. So I just think of chickens taking off as, taking off into the air, not as a trend of people buying them, because then they get eggs and have a nice companion.
People put various they have their own fucking pig and everything else in China, and it's densely populated, and there's like huge amounts of poverty and stuff, and it's just the perfect recipe for all sorts of shit. And why they've done better is because they already had this rodeo decades ago where they already had the fighting over masks and everything else with SARS, and they already went through the huge, enormous growing pains that we are. So now they're like 20 years from now, we're going to be like, oh, is it mask time? Oh, okay. We put the mask on. Nah, but it just... There's growing pains involved, so that's why they were able to manage a lot of it quite a bit better. But yeah, they've been releasing, my understanding is they've been releasing a fuckload of the data of what they were working on, and it just has no, like, geneticists can go and they can trace the ancestry just through genetic shifts and variation, and they can see how old things are. And they can, the ability to trace things is amazing. Most viruses in the past, it took like 10 years to figure out where the fuck it came from. Like AIDS had been around since like 1950 or something like that, and it didn't start taking off.
Back then, you just died for being a weak man. You just didn't eat enough steak and eggs. That's why you died, not because of some virus.
And the virus changed a little bit, and then it just never took off in a population. So yeah. Anyway, I'm a natural origin guy. I wouldn't be surprised if I lost the bet. But
the natural origin theory, that would be funny if that was the main contender.
What's that?
It wasn't leaked from a lab. It was leaked from natural origin. And then you make a site that's got like ugly font, and it just looks like a conspiracy site, but it's about the natural origin theory.
Oh yeah. Well, zoonosis is a zoonosis. I
thought it was zoonosis, but I learned it from you. I was thinking of.
I think it's pronounced zoonosis. Actually, I just heard the other day. I only read things and it's ZOO, so I just assume it's zoo. Anyway, What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say to the same effect of earlier. You said there's people that will say that they believe Diana was assassinated and also that she faked her own death. I was thinking of the if this is in the same category, but people will say that if global warming is real, why are billionaires buying beachfront property? And then they'll also say like, well, the vaccines aren't real, but then why are the doctors getting the vaccine then? But then they'll just say, oh, well, that's fake. They're getting fake ones. They're not giving themselves the real ones. But yeah, it's the beachfront property with the doctors. If they're getting the vaccine, probably they believe it.
Yeah. It's a man-made super virus to control the population that is also a hoax and not real.
Yeah.
That there is no cure for, but there is a cure, but only elites have it. It's just all of the fringiest things. Mm-hmm. It's all and
that's how they designed it, to confuse you. They made it that way to confuse you. See, it must be fun to actually buy into it, because you can argue anything as like, no, your evidence is false though.
Yeah.
All you have to do is just say your evidence is false, and I have the real evidence.
Well, there's also, so one thing that people will find if they go into this, if they read this Understanding Conspiracies review, is that, well, maybe you won't find it, but I found it noticeably absent, was there's really no speculation on evolutionary underpinnings of these sorts of things. And that, so I haven't looked into all of the papers, and maybe within each of the papers within the review, they have a bit on like why evolutionarily people would favor these things, but it's, people just don't think about evolution enough. And evolutionarily, there's So we've talked about error management theory on this show, the idea of like negativity bias, better safe than sorry. You have to assume, so the fire alarm example, you have to assume you can never engineer anything perfectly. It's going to either err and be a false positive and go off when there's not a fire and it's annoying, or it's going to be a false negative and not go off when there actually is a fire and whole buildings burn down. So they intentionally bias the fire alarm to be overly sensitive. Your brain has theoretically been biased by evolution, favored and selected to have some of these same biases. And one of the things is that when there's unexplained changes in the environment, that you can assume there's agency when there isn't, and there's typically a pretty low cost involved to you're just overly vigilant. Whereas if there's a false negative and there is actually, some hostile group or individual trying to act against you, which our hunter-gatherer ancestors would have faced all of the time, then there's a really, really high cost of being displaced, being murdered, whatever else. And so there's an agency bias that we have where we tend to assign intention to and minds to things where they don't necessarily exist especially when things are disrupted. So there's a dramatic change, like in this happened. So I don't know if anyone out there has lived in a town where they have their first roundabout.
What's that?
Happened in the intersections, they're also called rotaries in some areas.
The crazy circle that you can get stuck in forever.
The crazy circle. If you stick one of those fucking things in a town like in the Midwest or something that's never heard of such a thing, there's fucking social upheaval. It's not unwarranted either, but there's fucking conspiracies going on, like the government wants us spinning in circles and it's so crazy. You can even, there's great videos out there of people like in Russia and other places of people don't see the roundabout. It happened in my town. No. There's security. So they're just speeding along at 50 miles an hour and it used to just keep going as a highway. It was a T intersection, or it had lights before, and now it doesn't because it's a roundabout. You don't need lights at a roundabout anymore. And they just fucking launch off like fucking Dukes of Hazzard. And because you couldn't, like, you've been your whole life, intersections were a certain way. They had lights, they had an X or a T, or sometimes there was crazy ones with like 5 or 6, but they always had angles. Yeah. And you couldn't imagine such a thing as the round. Like, were you telling me, or someone's, I guess the Native Americans didn't see, like, when Europeans came and invaded, they didn't see their ships arriving on the coast. I don't know if this is actually true.
Yeah, I never believed that, but I've heard the story is that they didn't see it because they just couldn't comprehend what they were looking at. But I think it's more likely that they were just confused what they were seeing, not like that they didn't see it at all, because that makes no sense, that you just don't see what you're not used to seeing.
There's people, hunter-gatherers, that live in a jungle that have never seen anything far away. They've only seen things like really up close. It's rare, but there's a couple of these tribes out there. And when they go out into an open area for the first time, and someone will be like, look at that, that's a cow, and point at a cow like hundreds of yards away. They're like, that's not a cow. Cows aren't the size of my finger. They don't understand depth perception. They have zero experience with depth perception. And that's what a roundabout is like. You just can't see it. It's just a blind spot. You just fucking fly off that thing because they don't. And that's a lot of what we're dealing with too, which is that's the difference between policymakers who like understand things on the level of policy, of directing traffic, of like, we've studied this and this works in Europe and it's this efficient way to make traffic move around. So let's just fucking plop it here with no consideration for how individuals, you need to go fucking door to door. You need pamphlets. You need to explain shit.
It's like taking a piece of code from one software and just like throwing it in another software with no context. Just like, I like this line. It's a great line. It works well in this software. Let's just see what happens in this one without seeing what the other variable names are, what their responsibilities are.
And that's a lot of, I think, what's happening with COVID and policy making as well. So it's like it's not that policymakers are incorrect necessarily in what would actually work if it was actually implemented. And it's not that individuals are wrong to find this fucking confusing and frustrating and everything else. But there's a severe disconnect. It's a level of thinking, you know, where you're like, well, why the fuck would this be this way? And like, well, you're thinking on the level of you as an individual, and they're looking from a bird's eye view down, trying to
they're in the clouds, we're in the dirt.
Yeah.
There's no common language.
Mm-hmm. And so I think that's that's leading to some of the conspiracy thinking that's happening. That's like, in a lot of ways, no one's fault and both parties' fault at the same time, but it's just a fucking real situation. Yeah,
and we all kind of knew it would be, and it could have been way worse. Like we all entertained the possibility of there being total collapse, and there's not been total collapse. There's just been some. There's been some uprisings and some uncomfortable things here and there, and some disagreements and a lot of posturing, but not like giant level collapse.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think this is a lucky, so far, COVID's been a fire drill for like real deal shit because it's hyper contagious, but it's not like, if it was something like Ebola, if something was both, that's another reason why you wouldn't make something man-made, or like if you're going to make a vaccine for it, it's like you would make it more severe and more contagious. If you can just whip up whatever you want, make it as severe as Ebola. 50% of people that get Ebola are fucking goners, and those people that survive it aren't in great shape afterwards. So
what is the you maybe don't even know, but what is the main conspiracy right now with that, if there is a main one, or if it's just all over the place? But is it to reduce the population by 1% or by less than 1%? Like, what's the end goal here?
My feel right now is that it's like most of the, this is like good news and bad news situation, is that my feeling as someone who, I don't get as many conspiracies yelled at me anymore because most people have given up. and
You've given up on me. I've given up on you. We'll see each other in 10 years when we're working in a completely different paradigm.
But much like it's the goalposts have been moved quite a bit. So much like vaccines were originally like, this is a genocide microchip thing. It went from that to being like, I don't know if we should give this to like children, or are they covering up heart things in teenagers too?
Yeah, what about 17-year-old Mexican males are 12% more likely to get myocarditis if they're spending summer in the sun, which a lot of them do. A lot of them do spend summer in the sun. So what about them? I know that's straw manning, but I'm a straw man sculptor.
So it went from like something that was completely insane to like really, really nuanced. And the lab leak stuff's gone the same, where it went from like they intentionally made a thing and released a thing to like this was negligence. They covered it up. Maybe there shouldn't be gain of function stuff. Gain of function sounds really scary, and it is. Their biosecurity is super important, but we need biosecurity everywhere. We need biosecurity on. I just had a lizard episode. We need biosecurity on fucking pet stores and the fucking lizards. I would love a lizard
pandemic. It's like, it's not that bad. They don't even kill that many people. It's only when you're aggressive with them.
It's mostly lizards dying is the real thing. Lizards are being wiped out left and right.
See, but I always my method with all this is just kind of leave it alone, and like if the vaccines are killing people, I'll probably know in 6 months. Something will change. But then, as you said, the goalpost moves. And it's like, well, they're not as dangerous as we were saying they were, but they're still not as safe as the CDC is saying. Okay, they're a little safer than we were saying 2 weeks ago, but still, America is under attack. And you can only find out in this 3 steps how to win back America with me, guy in suit. Everyone at my audience wears suits too. Suit equals smart. Suit is responsible. Suit.
That was an amazing ad for Suits. Someone asked it was for an upcoming questions episode. Spoiler alert. Someone on Patreon asked if there was one thing, if we had to wear one thing for a year, what would it be? Just a huge, like what I'm wearing right now? Like, I could go that way. Like sometimes I button it, sometimes I don't. But I thought suit might work.
Like all day, every night?
I mean, I think you get PJs. I think when you go out, you got to wear the same thing in their rules. You go outside, you wear the same thing.
Would I be a suit guy? I mean, I kind of already do this, but I just do jeans and a t-shirt.
Okay. I just feel like, because I did suit on stage for like 6, probably did it like 10 times total, and didn't like it at all. But
what era of you was that?
Oh, this was with April when I
so 2015, 2016.
Malibu Shane. Yeah.
Interesting.
When she dressed me up and tried to. She got gel in my hair was like one good takeaway from it. There was a couple additions that added to my. But
no, you cleaned up real nice. You went from being like your drinking days of like, you know, kind of scruffy hair and a little like, of course not fat, but like alcohol puffier compared to like when afterwards it's like just like a pit brother kind of.
Yeah, I know. It was a bit much though. But now that I have now I feel like if I wore a suit, it'd be awesome because I'm like business, neck down, homeless, neck up. There's something to that's interesting. There's a good dichotomy going on there.
Suit in the bed, homeless in the head.
Groups of scientists manipulate, fabricate, or suppress evidence in order to deceive the public.
Not all of them, but so I have to go. I'll do regular disagree because I don't believe it's all scientists, but I will say there's what was that company where they pretended they found a way to do an analysis on a blood sample in under an hour remotely, and then it turns out the Elizabeth Banks character, what's the person, the boss girl who's blonde with the black turtleneck.
Yeah,
like that could be a group of scientists suppressing.
I'm not familiar.
Like for corporate interests, they're scientists, or like in the Oxycontin thing, Dope Sick, like their scientists are suppressing it, but not like everyone that's a virologist. Like, hey, everyone get in here. We're going to go to the Astrodome and like huddle up and be like, everyone pretend that this vaccine is good and that we like it. All right, now go back to your families. And then if we see each other at the grocery store, we've never met before.
Yeah, but
Not
if you're
that,
like,
but like 12 of them, 12 out of that 1,000 maybe.
right. But if you're, but you can, like a good example would be like for COVID, the Great Barrier Reef, or not Great Barrier Reef, Great Barrier Declaration.
What's that?
Is it was basically at the beginning of COVID. It was funded by an economics organization and the libertarian think tank. To basically, it was like anti any like government anything during COVID, and so they were able to get like 3 or 4 like really highly credentialed scientists, just like you can get like Peter McCullough or something like that, works for anti-vax organizations or whatever. You can always buy like a couple credentialed. Cigarette companies have always been able to buy a couple like really intelligent credentialed people.
Yeah. Did you know you can buy a lab coat just for $12 on Amazon? I thought you had to be like certified by the board before they would sell you a coat of that length, but anyone can own a lab coat and anyone can have a camera and just I think Nick Mullen has a character right now that's like Dr. Grab Your Vagina or something, like some Bart Simpson phone call level name, and then he'll post stuff about like vaccines have shown to make testicles 30% smaller in squirrels. Like, this is fact. And like, he's doing all this kind of stuff as this doctor. But then if you look at it, it's like, oh no, this is clearly a Nick Mullen character. I think it's him. I'm not sure. I haven't looked enough, but
yeah, the Great Barrington Declaration. It was a group of people, and so they basically pushed for herd immunity, like right at the beginning of COVID. They're like, we just all got to get it as fast as we can, and every other scientist was like, whoa, what the fuck?
That's quite a gambit, because what if it was, I know it's not like AIDS, but if you said that for other diseases such as AIDS, that's no strategy there.
We all need to get herpes as soon. I know we don't know much about new herpes. Like tomorrow a new herpes comes out. And
what's important is we all get it.
As fast as possible. Not that we all get it, that we all get it as a matter of urgency.
Yeah. Yeah, because maybe what doesn't kill you always makes you stronger. That's not true with everything. It's just not. No. Some things make you weaker and it weakens you, and then you age. We're in these bodies that age and get weaker and then eventually dissolve. But
yeah,
like to think that it's always going to get stronger with each thing I give it, and then no.
Yeah. I'm the same with you on this one. I'm a regular disagree. I mean, I also think that there's a lot of, I know from talking with science, there's a lot of, I mean, part of the start of the intellectual dark web had some legitimate reasons for it. It was basically infighting between social science and
and hard
evolution
science
and saying
hard and soft sciences are at war.
Yeah, hard and soft sciences are at war, and people not wanting to hear about like deterministic things because it takes away control, and varying narratives. So I'm gonna put a disagree, but I'm just gonna put a regular disagree on that.
And earlier, I didn't mean to say that, soft scientist means it's like, oh, it's soft and weak, but it's just, psychology is a soft science compared to physics. That's just such a more...
Mathematics gave rise to physics, which gave rise to like chemistry and
to biology.
And then biochemistry to biology, and then like psychology starts getting it, but it just becomes way too fucking complicated
and less predictable. Like you can make more accurate predictions with physics than you can with sociology, because just humans are made of physics and chemistry, and like we're built upon the physics and the other stuff.
Right. So even though a lot of these soft scientists may actually be much more important to the everyday life of most individuals on Earth, they're still just foggier. They're super complicated.
Wouldn't it be
And there's
better to
lot
go
of
to a
infighting.
physicist sometimes? Like sometimes you go to a psychologist, but sometimes you go to a physicist and they're just telling you about like the weight in your arms and like the pressure the chair is also putting on your ass and your ass is putting pressure on the chair at the same time you leave, just kind of being like, I had nothing to do with my childhood, but I do feel better thinking about my ass in the chair and the chair in my ass.
That's amazing. That's part of why I started doing the guided ruminations, because it's this idea of the null hypothesis again, of like, are we sure there's actually a connection here? Like, are we sure that therapy, like in whatever methods that they're using, is what's working? Or is it the act of going and sitting in a place and doing something?
Yeah.
That's like every self-help book I've ever read helps me, and they're all bullshit.
If we could only double blind it somehow, like one person goes to a therapist, the other person goes to a room with just, I don't know, some puzzles and like just a bouncy ball.
I like physicists. That would be amazing. Just have them explain the theory of relativity for it, and you're like, yeah, but I have these issues with my childhood and like, family members and my spouse and such. They're like, yeah, but let me tell you.
No, they don't even say yeah. They just keep going with their spiel.
Yeah. Like, but time works differently the further away you get from mass in the center of gravity.
That reminds me of the Key and Peele sketch with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and like he keeps sciencing his way out of everything, and he gets caught cheating on his wife, and he's like, actually, there's a multiverse of possibilities. So there's in fact infinite different versions of me that did not sleep with that white woman.
That's hilarious.
But he did like 3 or 4 of them, and it's probably 3, comedy rule of 3. But like after everything he was accused of, it's like, well, actually, and then the background becomes space. The voice wasn't right, but the feel of it was good. Some people get the impression with a fun take, a fun feel, but it's not the voice. It's a tough voice to do. I don't know if anyone can do that voice.
The Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Yeah, it's kind of deep, but it's also large, much like the stars. But the stars weren't always there. The stars were created by supernovas, which are inside each one of you. So when I think of myself, I don't feel small. I feel big because I'm made of the stuff of stars. I saw a meme that said, like, you're made of star stuff, but so is the garbage.
Oh, that's funny. He, I like his stuff. He has such a dorky sense of humor.
Yeah, it's cool to have a main science communicator guy like Bill Nye, Carl Sagan, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Michio Kaku. Like,
you need a lady in there.
There's 0, huh? I can't even think of one. Like, sometimes you throw in like, Sarah Silverman, Tina Fey, Beth Stilling. You're just like throwing in to make sure. I can't do it with the science ones.
I have more fun talking with my female guests than my male guests.
But who's
most
the
of the
big
time.
name though?
Yeah, not many.
In the hard, like, so going towards biology, there's Jane Goodall. You've got
Jane Goodall would be.
But is there physics though? Is there a name in
biggest.
physics? Maybe because they're too busy doing physics and not trying to be all like, look at me. And look at me it feels like much more of a male thing. Look at me.
It's more of a status driven for sure. Yeah. Like females did a lot of the innovation with infectious disease stuff. I think they're kind of predisposed to be more disease avoidant and mindful of diseases. But yeah, like we talked about in past episodes, the smallpox vaccine that was brought to Europe by a female anthropologist was like, everyone was just like, what? Women don't do science. And so like no one would take the vaccine until a dude co-opted it. And that's happened with several things.
Oh, it's still happening.
Science.
Like people getting, surprised that like, oh, the women can't shoot or blah. Not saying we're that, of course, but the fact that still exists is nuts.
Yeah. All right. Groups of scientists manipulate, fabricate, suppress evidence in order to deceive the public. I'm going to go just regular old disagree. So's Ramin. The government permits or perpetuates acts of terrorism on its own soil, disguising its involvement.
9/11 inside job, eh?
Yeah.
Steel doesn't melt at jet fuel doesn't melt steel naturally, eh? I don't know. I haven't really.
Building 7, first steel structure of its kind to melt and collapse.
It seems weird, like if they did that so to create distrust in Afghanistan and then go to war with Iraq. It doesn't seem like, it seems like they could have done a better connection with that, because then afterwards it shows that they didn't have WMDs and there wasn't warranted. Well, but I'm terrible at following geopolitics things. Maybe at small level, but I don't know if 9/11 was
I definitely don't
demolition.
think so. Just because I have had an earful from friends through so many years, I'm like, nah. But
what was the best piece of evidence that made you go, Because when I hear the jet fuel and the steel beams thing, I'm like, that sounds right, but also I don't know what temperature jet fuel does to what, or what that building was made of, or why it
I mean, I think early on some of like the Building 7 stuff was like, it didn't even hit buildings. Building 7 just started on fire from the debris, but they were going in and out of it. This is before I knew that, like, firefighters were in it trying to put out the fires that just eventually got out of control. And then they started seeing some of the structure, like one of the beams starting to go, and they're like, get everyone the fuck out of there. But they were trying to stop it. It just definitely got out of control. But it was presented like there were controlled explosives, and that's where they planned 9/11, and that's why they had to destroy it, because it's like they wouldn't just like wipe the hard drives or something. They had to destroy a suspicious miscellaneous building. Yeah.
See, it's weird when there's
of the planet. Like, there's so many easier things you could do to, like,
there's holes.
You didn't have a shredder. You didn't have a paper shredder back then available. Come on now.
Pristine stapled pages all in order. But the mainstream narrative has holes in it often, but then when you're presented with the conspiracy, you're like, that has holes in it too. And if I'm going to choose my thing with holes in it, I guess I'll pick the one that doesn't make me tinfoil hat and paranoid all the time.
Well, one of the things that that has one of the personality traits is that conspiracy believer. Oh, there was a fun wording of conspiracy. I think let me see here.
The act of really telling people to do the research, following your own random exploration.
So they're often predisposed for high need for closure.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
And so, I've said that it's not I'm taking this from Tim Dillon, but it's not a limited series. Conspiracy Land is a soap opera. It goes on forever, and you'll never get the closure.
Yeah. But it does offer an explanation for events before there is one available. And so here's this. There's conspiracy predisposition. I actually think so. These are other terms that are used to refer to this idea of like a conspiracy believer. Conspiracy predisposition. And I actually think they're all a little bit different. Conspiracist ideation, which I think that's more like, ideation to me is just like, oh, the idea pops into your head. like the bad B movie plot or whatever. And
Yeah, suicidal ideation. It lives there all the time.
Yeah, it lives there. It's just available. It's easier to see. It's easier to picture. Mad scientist springs to mind. War room springs to mind more readily
masks.
than the boring. Yeah.
People naked with weird masks on, performing rituals involving dead, kidnapped children from Haiti.
Yeah. Then there's conspiracy mentality and conspiracy worldview. And so whichever one of those people like, you can choose your own adventure or create your own. I use scary tailors personally because I think that a lot of it has to do with the higher order belief system. I think it's just, I think some of it's reading pandemic history. It seems like, one, this is commonplace, but also I'm suspicious that as the church is losing popularity and losing patrons, like we still have
the need,
we have an evolved need and predisposition toward that kind of mindset that isn't being filled in other ways.
Yeah.
And these scary tales are just like the very opposite. They're the dark side of that coin.
That's why you got to get into TV shows. It's not about going to actual church. It's not about not having anything. It's not about personal responsibility. It's about getting into more shows, get into Mayor of Easttown, get into the Star Wars universe, like fill yourself with these sermons and then never get enough sermons and look forward to the next sermon instead of like blocking traffic or something. I've spoken about that a lot, and it's funny that I know nothing of it still. I just know that there's 10% of truckers or something that are blocking the road to Canada. There's one road that goes to Canada and they're blocking it.
I haven't. I don't know much of what's going on either, other than they have just like really vague demands.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not just getting rid of mandates. They also want like Trudeau to resign, which is
they
like,
hate that Trudeau guy.
They just got, well, they're getting like very lofty with things. They're like demanding things from the United States now too. It's like, what? This isn't, guys. This is their little, like, for people that saw January 6th and were like that jealous of the people that were storming the gates to nowhere.
But there is demands.
Like no one. I mean, this is the issue with a lot of protests, like just generally, is there's not specific demands to be met. You know, people just want others to care more.
Yeah, we want to be heard. What are you saying? We want to be heard.
Yeah.
What are you saying? Want to be heard.
Yeah. And so like, how do you then signal, okay, we hear ya?
Yeah. If it was all the truckers, like, I think people should be concerned. But then when I heard it's a small percentage of it, it's like, yeah, a small percentage. Come on. You a mainstream media person like me.
It's also like you do have a crazy amount of power to disrupt. Like, you're shutting down major traffic way. I don't know how much of it they're doing, but if you're cutting a supply chain off, that's like, if you want to hear, the thing about conspiracies is people make them harder than they need to be. Like, you can be in a country, if you want a country to just dissolve, all that you need to do is start a meme farm. Just pick a country and just get social media accounts in that country, figure out everything about it. Like, go to like when you're a comic, you just go to the truck stop and you see like, oh, here's what they're into. This is what they're excited about. This is their sports team that they're into. Here's their wacky
Green Bay Pickers.
Yeah, this is the bumper stickers. Here's what they think is funny, like lowest common denominator jokes.
Lock her up. Oh, bummer's healthcare plan stinks.
And then you can just get like the least informed, angriest people to take it out on like the medical and scientific community. Like really easily just from computers. You could just start social media accounts and do that really easy and whip people into a frenzy.
And the bullying of nerds is back. Like it went away for a little bit because nerddom got cool, but then now the real nerds are being attacked. Not people that like Marvel and stuff. People that did well in school and studied and are researching things. I don't research shit. I know less about viruses than I did 10 years ago. Okay, that's not true. I know more just because of mainstream stuff happening. But there's people that are there's people that in the time I've been alive, when I was a 20-year-old, someone was born and then decided to study viruses and now knows a lot about it. And in all that time, I didn't learn anything about viruses.
Yeah.
And then now they're being bullied.
I know.
Threatened, called dumb.
It happens quite a bit. I have guests I can't get for Here We Are because they won't do media appearances anymore. Not because of my show, like because of other local shows and stuff that they've done. And because so there was three topics I decided not to cover much on Here We Are from the onset. One was chemistry, because chemistry scares the fuck out of me because I don't know anything about it. And I don't want to know because it's just intimidating, but I'm sure I could if I tried. I can't pull the trigger.
Interesting.
And then
that's weird that biology and physics are fine for you, but then that middle child, you don't like thinking about it.
I don't get it. I don't like thinking.
And you didn't watch Breaking Bad, right? I think we've discussed this.
I did.
Oh, you saw all of it?
Yeah, and Better Call Saul.
Oh, nice. Because it got me into chemistry for a little bit. Not in the way that I'd actually do anything about it, but I'm like, oh yeah, chemistry is cool. Because Walter White take some made classes. It cool. But go on.
I like physics, but I thought when I started Here We Are 8 years ago, there was already Star Talk and stuff. So I'm like, when people think of science, they think of two things. They think about physics and space and stuff. And then they think of like chemistry and like Mr. Wizard type, like making volcano shit. And then they think of global warming and climate stuff. And like all those things are covered. So I'm going to do the stuff that isn't covered, which at the time was like evolutionary psychology and biology, that sort of thing. Now it's actually
no, that's a good observation. I hadn't even thought of that, but when you said it, I'm like, yeah, you do think of space, a black t-shirt, a beaker, and we have to do something about the carbon emission levels. And then, you're not thinking of someone talking to a lizard researcher or something.
Yeah. And they are now. That's getting to be popular. I was ahead of the curve, but wasn't able to capitalize on it. But valuable info anyway. But because of that, I haven't had many interactions with climate scientists. And so I didn't know that scientists get threatened by like it's a kill the messenger sort of situation. Because climate scientists get death threats all the time. And I'll always have like what's the little girl
Greta Thunberg.
Like people are so mean to her. Like that's a fucking little girl that cares about shit, who's like actually pretty smart. And like
I have no idea about that. I saw her first talk and that was very good, and then I saw another talk and she couldn't put together a sentence, but then also sometimes I cannot put a sentence together. And also, isn't she just like a 15-year-old girl somewhere on the spectrum? Like she shouldn't be able to have all the answers to it. Her purpose was to represent the next generation as being let down because we're not taking this seriously, and there was a lot of emotion in it, but I think it's wrong to put on her like, oh, what does she think about the latest findings? What is her expert take on it? Coming up next is like, no, she's done. That was her moment, and then that sparked that, and then maybe we should tune into her in 5-10 years, see what she's up to. But I don't think she should be the spokesperson of. There's too much pressure for a kid that doesn't, or maybe she does know stuff, but I felt like it was mainly for the one moment.
Yeah.
But shouldn't get death threats. Her parents, sure, but don't death threat the kid.
So I think like a lot of these things just it's not that hard for people have issues with insecurities about nerds that know more than they do or whatever else, but it doesn't really take much to just turn a bunch of people against science. All that you need is it's the Al Gore was right to call it an inconvenient truth. That's all that it is. Like, people do not want to be inconvenienced.
Yeah.
And consciousness will run away with coming up with any fucking story to avoid having to do anything about anything.
We do
like
it
I
ourselves.
Do every day.
Yeah, we do it with as a whole species, like we're doing with that kind of like when you have a bill that you know that if you don't pay it, something bad is going to happen. It's going to double in cost. They're going to shut your lights off. They're going to come take your car away. They'll put a lien on your house, whatever the thing is, but still, like, what if I just put the letter in a different place though? Then it doesn't really exist. It'll exist later. I'll do something about it later. But for now, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, and then when you get like the parking ticket or whatever, it's like this fucking system and it's unjust and everything. Yeah, I mean, that shit's just in us. So a small. Let's see. The government permits and perpetuates acts of terrorism on its own soil.
Disagree. Regular. See, I'll never strongly any of these, but I won't. What's an example of one that they did do, like terrorism?
On its own soil? I mean,
you can make the argument that sometimes the police can go a little too hard or things like that, but then that's not terrorism. Or was the school shooters, were they MK Ultras? I don't know. Probably not.
I was going to do a regular disagree, and now I'm strongly disagree. But 9/11 is an interesting one in thinking about conspiracy thinking, because most of us do it at some point, and it's often a thing that's lobbed against outgroups. So depending on your political disposition or whatever, you're just prone to, like I said, conservatives are prone to think like these, ivory tower institutions are plotting a thing. I'm prone to think corporations are plotting a thing. I happen to be much more correct. But I because come on, but 9/11 is like, so you had conspiracy people are like, the government was in on plotting this, and then you had but the official narrative is that terrorists conspired. That was a conspiracy. 9/11 was a conspiracy any way that you cut it, because either Osama bin Laden conspired or the government conspired to make it look like he did or whatever. And then the U.S. did a weapons of mass destruction thing to invade Iraq, which was like either insane negligence or like some sort of conspiracy-ish thing, which if they would have just been up front and been like, we're going to start taking out dictators we're going to do something about this problem. We're going to start with dictators. Saddam's at the top of our list right now. We don't care for him. We're just going to take him out. Mm-hmm. Like, people would have had a problem with it, but it would have been better than saying that there was weapons of mass destruction and then there not be weapons of mass destruction.
I don't think they counted on it being false later, unless that was part of the big arc. You see, they've got such a big arc that it goes beyond even our lifetime. So like what they're setting up now is for something to play out in 2312. We won't even be there to see it, but trust me, all the pieces are being moved. Every move is a chess move.
That's the thing with the long arc. As you get older, it's like, God, by the time you get your footing in anything, the world just changes so much. And then it's time to move to a next job and then next job. And then you're retired and you're gone and hopefully training the next person. It's amazing. Anything has an arc at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there are real conspiracies, and then there's conspiracy thinking from lots of different points of view. And so traditionally it was like the political parties would have conspiracies about one another. Whoever loses the election goes, they rigged it. You know, that's sort of, you're more prone to think
the winner,
that
the winner rigged it.
The winner, the loser's more prone to think the winner rigged it. But then there was always people that were just into the fringy, weird, like out there ideas. But then those got so popular that it's almost conspiracy thinking is like a party onto itself that will just align itself. If it has any political alignment, it's just whichever politician or whichever side will validate them more is where they'll gravitate to, you know, whether it's not like a party thing anymore. It's just a belief system that will vote or not vote accordingly. Actually, I think most conspiracy people don't vote.
Yeah, because they know that they're both in on it.
Right.
Which to a sense, that's true in the same way that the people fighting aren't really, they're not truly enemies during the campaign. They're probably more vicious during the campaign. But then as we see, like, you know, George Bush and Ellen DeGeneres just watch football together. It's just they're fine. Just, you know, that was during the campaign, but you know, we hang out regular style. But not that that's wrong.
Talk
like
to one another.
Because wasn't what's her face? Ruth Bader Ginsburg was good friends with Scalia, and he was the most right-wing judge, and she is the most left judge. And you'd think that they'd be enemies, but they go horseback riding together, and they do pottery or whatever thing they used to do.
I've partied with people that have way different dispositions on life than I have. That's for sure. Yeah,
and it sucks that online is tough to communicate that like, I don't wish you were dead, but I still disagree with you or something, which is why I don't engage at all. But
there's something interesting about social media, though. I was trying to write a joke about I was trying to flip it, because everyone talks about how bad it is, that it tears us all apart, and we're such horrible people on there, and we all do it, whatever.
I love different takes.
It's a cesspool, but to me, I think one of the benefits is you get to find out if someone's an asshole like really quickly. Like normally, like I've had friends that have gotten way deep in conspiracy. I think in the bonus episode this month, where I'm gonna share a long story of how I kind of got into thinking about conspiracy stuff of a friend of mine that was the long story short, ended up needed medical care and didn't get it because of conspiracy thinking, and it ruined his life in a lot of ways than that. But it's one of my best friends, and it's part of the reason why I care about this stuff. But the thing is like every friend that's into conspiracies that I've ever had starts really small. You know, they dip their toes. It takes a very long time before they open up about like what's really going on. You know, they got to trust you before you can. Whereas online, people are just like, this is what it is. It's the Jews doing the genocide, this and that. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow, that's just the core of your beliefs right out there on the open.
And then you on Twitter is like the opposite of that. Maybe not 100%, but very vocally like anti-misinformation spreading. But then in real life, you're like not spending much time talking about.
No. It's Twitter's a place that I go to vent. I would say Instagram is a closer representation of who I am.
Yeah, Twitter's the toilet, and then the Instagram is, I don't know, the shower.
But there's good info on Twitter sometimes. I do get there's a lot of like, follow a lot of scientists. I read a lot of publications and stuff that I see links to, not related to conspiracy stuff, but and then because I post so little on Facebook and Instagram and stuff, I notice, because it's people, the trolls, they just search. They're not like following me or anything. They're just searching keywords to just harass anyone that posts. I'll be like at the start of, I'll be like, hey, people in my town, we just got a batch of vaccines in. If anyone gets it, when everyone was in line trying to get the vaccines, there was 1 week where we got an unexpected batch. And so you could jump in line and, they didn't want them to go bad and everything. So I posted like, I just got my vaccine and you can too. And just flooded with awful, like, I'm screenshotting all of these, then this is genocide. You're going to be dead in 3 months. And then like, because I don't post about vaccine, then I'll see, and they don't follow me, nothing. Like I'll look, they don't follow my page. They're just like looking for people to harass. And then I'll post something 6 months later, because I don't post, I'll do an episode. And then like all the people that thought vaccines are going to be the worst, now they're all like, everyone they know that got a vaccine like exploded now, just all of them. And like everyone that got regular COVID now has perfect natural immunity. They're better for it. Like they got regular grandma's homemade organic cage-free COVID. And
sounds like a good story, but where's the evidence, Jack? Where's the ev?
It turned their life around. They're successful now. They're wealthy. Like, you just got to get yourself this OG COVID. But everyone that got a vaccine exploded.
They should just say that it makes your dick bigger, because then we'll get 110%.
Oh yeah.
Retention rates, or not retention. That implies that they already got it. You know what I mean? People will take it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's self-fulfilling prophecies, etc.
And we've talked about the mandates and why that's a tricky thing, but
it is
I get
super tricky.
Because even if it's
I
this
stay
vaccine
away from
isn't
mandate
good,
talk usually, but
because I don't have the answer. On one hand, sure. On the other hand, hey, slow down.
It's the same as like most people aren't equipped to actually analyze if a vaccine is effective or safe for you. But what pretty much anyone can do is talk politics and talk about like things like freedom and whatnot. So most people are going to yank, because everyone wants to be in on the conversation. So most people are going to yank it into the area of like, but my freedoms, and here's what my freedom means to me. And like, we all have different ideas. Like, I want the freedom to not pay for someone's health costs that could have easily avoided a $70,000 hospital bill that
that's
now
not sexy, though.
them or whatever.
What's sexier is fighting for freedom now.
Right.
Wouldn't it be more fun to be like enslaved though, and then break free after they've really got us? Why do you have to like stop them from enslaving us first? Get enslaved, then we do the big Matrix movie where we get out of the pod and meet Trinity and all that fun stuff. But imagine if he never gets put into the pod, where it's just Neo like fighting the computer before they enslave everyone. That's a dumb movie. Get enslaved, then we'll break free. 2032. I should go
it's
infiltrate.
Too late once you're in the pod. All right, we better burn through the rest of these.
How many more we got? Like quickly. 8?
1, 2. Should we just do this into the bonus episode, or should we finish it quick? We're only halfway through. The conversations have been fun.
Yeah, why don't we double part it?
Double pot it?
Yeah, what were you suggesting, right? Like
I think that's a good idea because we're only halfway through.
So this is regular, really fun, and then next one is bonus.
Yeah.
Man, I shouldn't have called Greta Thunberg a whore or whatever I said. Shouldn't have done that. It's not nice. You don't say that about a Scandinavian who's fixing the planet and cares. And then me over here, I'm not Scandinavian. I'm not fixing the planet, and I don't get death threats, so I shouldn't have. Whatever I said about the thing earlier is just that's. If I say something bad, imagine me saying it on a bonus episode instead of the regular one. Do you do that? Like, do you have a more relaxed? Like, I can tell my shoulders are more relaxed during bonus, and for some reason, I'm like, this one's the bonus one, and then oh no, it's not the bonus one.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, that's part of the fun of the bonus episodes. You support us on Patreon, and we get a little, we get a little looser on those bonus episodes because some we don't know are going to be bonus episodes until we get too loose, and then we're like, oh, bonus episode. This one's not going out to the public. So get those juicy bonus episodes on Patreon. Let's do one more. Shall we do one more? Mm-hmm. Because we're going to have plenty to talk about tomorrow or on the bonus episode. A small secret group of people is responsible for making all major decisions, such as going to war.
Small group of major people decide whether to go to war. Yeah, sounds right. Strongly agree. Maybe I should do regular agree because small implies like a handful, and maybe it's more like a few hundred. I mean, I don't know who decides. Is it George Soros and the Rothschilds, or is it 100 people, or is it 1,000 people? Probably 100 people.
I mean, I think democracy has it has a bit of power. I think also just public will and demand. I mean, I think if you look at, like, from my perspective, CDC relaxing guidelines and stuff, I think that is not at all based in science from scientists that I talk to. I think that's purely based in, like, they're sick of death threats and, like, not wanting to enrage people further and trying to
what if they relax
public trust and
like mask mandates, or I don't.
Yeah. Pretty. Yeah. I mean, it's all it, and it's funny that people are like, now's the time that they're fighting the hardest for whatever freedom, because it's like everything's being relaxed right now because we just got through the peak, and I don't know. Who knows? It will be nice if there's some sort of warning system, like in the future, where there's regional based sort of fire hazard-ish, terrorist threat-ish type alert system, where here's when we put masks on, here's the level of masks that we put on, here's why, explaining how to wear masks properly and why. It's funny that people like make fun of, like, oh, but people don't even cover their nose with it. Like, well, then make fun of those people. Why are you making fun of It's not the mask's fault that people like wear them wrong. It's like blaming a condom for sitting on the dresser while
just putting it on
you're
one
not
ball.
Using it.
That joke's probably already been made already.
I haven't heard.
I'm not even familiar with what the first
putting a condom on your ball.
Because I don't know what
it's like putting a condom on your balls is the best metaphor for improper.
That's the artwork right there. Gonna get us flagged on Instagram.
Clip it and ship it.
Yeah.
I wonder if there would be an art piece that you can make that you couldn't tell from it that it had anything to do with this. But if you listen to the episode and then look at the art piece, like, oh, that's a Balls reference.
Yeah.
That's probably an unrealistic expectation, but it would be fun to make people connect the dots.
Yeah. Sometimes I think about setting up another garbage account. I never do it, but the freedom of setting up multiple accounts and then arranging your content by cast, and you have like your very nice good boy cast that's going to do well with everything, and then you put your garbage in another account where it's just the most crass memes you can think of.
Oh yeah, I would love to see crass memes.
I only do it in sketchbooks, and then I never let them see the light of day. It's just it's too crass.
Ooh.
And it goes away after time because you're just less crassy as you get older. But
yeah. Huh. All right. Well, might be a Patreon perk one day.
Yeah. Keep those wallets open. Keep those blockchain accounts sending stuff towards us.
And by the way, so at the time we're recording this, it's coming out sometime after we're recording this. But I already know that one of the most recent episodes is now on video on Spotify. We're also going to be on video on other apps as it becomes available, but we're trying to, at the time that we're recording this, change over the entire back catalog as well. So you can also watch. I know a lot of people write in and they're like, oh, when you reference something like Shane wearing a front bun or something like that, people like to then go to YouTube or whatever. Well, with Spotify, you'll be able to turn it on when you want to see us like cracking up or wearing a front bun or something like that, or noticing a highlight. And then you can turn it back off to save data or just listen to audio or whatever. And so you'll be able to have both, which I think you can kind of do that with YouTube anyway, right? If you're just playing YouTube on your phone, if you're like out for a jog or something.
Only with YouTube Premium. If you have regular YouTube, if you close the app, that audio's gone.
Really?
Mm-hmm. That's
YouTube
what the premium
though?
Yeah, YouTube Premium, you can use it as an audio player too in the background, but regular YouTube, you get ads and it's active playing only.
I mean, I have, like we said before, got all the primos. I got the YouTube Primo, the Spotify.
I don't know why I don't get YouTube Primo. Maybe I'll just do that today. I'm going to look at my finances and then see if I can justify it to the CEO. Me.
Yeah, you gotta,
like I can buy anything, but I don't let myself buy stuff because I'm constantly making myself small and neurotic and all that stuff.
Yeah,
but it's like why don't I just approve the purchase?
I think can't you just get rid of like Showtime or something like that and then get that YouTube Primo? Anyway, guys, all that is to say is that we've made a couple advances lately and we're going to make more. That being said, if there's some weird hiccup with some app, we don't watch the podcast on every possible app or anything. So please bring it to our attention. And other than that, if you want to find out, how about I give you a little teaser since I already know where I ended up.
Tease me, then please me, part 5. Let's do it.
So you want to hear where my scores are when I took it the other day? So my total score, my overall score of conspiracist beliefs was 2.13 out of 5. That's just a pube below average. The average score of a college student was 2.22. So I'm
what was
just
yours again?
2.13 out of 5.
Oh yeah, you're really low.
That's not really low, but it's low. And then, so government malfeasance was 2.33. Malevolent Global Conspiracies was 2 out of 5. Control of information which we haven't really even got to in the survey yet, but I'm 2.67 on that. That was my highest, tied with personal well-being that I was also 2.67 on. And then extraterrestrial cover-up, I was a 1 out of 5.
1 out of 5.
Super strongly disagree on that. So I'm average. If people saw me on Twitter, I bet they'd be like, he's close-minded 1 out of 5 conspiracy person. I'm not. I think conspiracy
But 2 is low for them.
Happen.
I think anything less than a 5 to some people is, the first
some
hiccups
people,
of mom too. I've got hiccups and it's the first time on camera.
Well, we better wrap up. Hiccups are ridiculous.
Yeah, that's fine. The hiccups aren't going anywhere. After I stop recording, then it's just going to be me alone with hiccups.
We had, let's see, we had one person on the Discord that was a 1.13.
That is a skeptical Sally. Or no, that's
a
a mainstream
fuck.
Matthew. Yeah.
That's a mainstream Matthew. And then there was one person that was over a 3. There's another person 2.4. So we got some average folks, and then we had a real mainstream Matthew in there.
And what was your highest? What was the highest you said?
I just posted this, so it was just there was just a few. I'm
guessing I'm going to be a neutral Nancy, just because I'll never
nooch Nats.
Yeah, because I believe it.
I bet I'm gonna get you bumped up to a 3 out of 5, just above average.
No, that's what I said. 3, right? What did I say?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just neutral Nancy, just completely 3.
3 is average. Oh, you're right. 3 is average.
Yeah, right in the middle, because I'm never going to go like storm the Capitol, but I'm also not going to be like, hey, we got to stop the spread of misinformation there. I'm like just so right in the middle of they're going to think that they've got good points, but also I don't think you have it figured out all the way. And also the mainstream has holes in it, but the competition isn't selling much better either. So just right in the middle.
I think there's a
fence sitter, a centrist.
If you end up dead tonight, people are going to see you hiccuping at the end, and
you'd be ruined.
And think that I had something.
That would be so cool. Do you know how to get rid of hiccups? Have you ever been able to?
Nope.
Me neither. How about you? No, I can never do it. Like I've tried, like with the scaring thing, that doesn't work. The drinking water upside down, the holding your nose, the
how do you scare yourself?
Or you tell someone to scare you and don't tell them when to scare you. Or if you have someone you really trust, they'll just do it like randomly without you having to tell them. But drinking water upside down, that never really worked. And eating a whole jar of peanut butter, that sounds like overkill too. So I just wait it out and then.
Yeah, it goes away.
Yeah.
It doesn't. There's a couple weird. I think there's something where people can hiccup, toward the end of like a serious disease. There was a sneezing one like that, which is a hilarious.
Oh, and you die from sneezing.
It's part of. I think it's where God Bless You came from, was like one of the symptoms toward the end was people would sneeze a bunch. And so at first they thought it was the devil, like a sign that the devil was coming. And then once the virus kind of went away, then they're like, oh, sneezing must be how the virus escapes. And so like you just got blessed.
Oh.
By your sneeze. So isn't it wonderful to live in a world of science where we aren't sitting here like, well, what does a hiccup mean? Is it evil?
Probably evil. Probably should sacrifice a couple of my children first. And if it doesn't work, I didn't sacrifice enough children. Better sack a few more.
All right, my friend, this is super fun. Look forward to the bonus episode.
Keep those tinfoil hats shiny. Keep them medium shiny, as I would.
And I'm just above a disagree on conspiracies. It's not bad. It's not bad. All right. Well, until next time.
Keep on salivating, honeys. Ding, ding.